Built on Green Tree. It's a Monday night. That means most of the crew is here. Rod has been preoccupied with some other activities. That will be our alibi.
Yeah. Rod got blocked by a guard, I guess, caught up in the wash.
His spyware wasn't working. I don't know.
It happened.
He didn't know how to turn off his pop-up blocker. So right now he's FaceTiming with some organization to be determined organization.
Oh my goodness!
Talking about youth football in the Miami Gardens Ravens. But Chad Wilson and KC McDermott are here, and I think Chad kind of joked about this last week. I'm serious this week. How do we not start with Cam Ward? I mean, I don't even have the word. I really do not have. If I had to pick a singular word to describe what he's doing, I don't think I have the appropriate word. Chad, how do you just contextually frame what he's done in 3 games?
Well, it's historical, but he missed a couple passes, so let's get on him about it.
All right.
He threw a pass behind a guy.
Honestly,
the best thing I saw him do this week was get a lot of guys involved. Jokingly, I sent you guys that text about Jacoby, like, welcome to the 2024 season. It was nice to see him get off. Too bad he stepped out of bounds on that really electric play because that was really nice. But we spread the ball around this week, so I thought that was really, really great. I thought as a whole came out kind of sloppy. You could call it the weather delay, or third straight butt kicking that was ordered up. But overall, man, I think this is the most yards passing for a quarterback in the first 3 games, and he still looks cool as ever back there. And you got to love the skipping rock sidearm, screen thing that he's got going on. We're going to have to start imitating that.
Yeah.
Fans doing that in the stands.
You got to get a windscreen for that microphone so when you do the sidearm sling, it doesn't pop up on the show and come into our. What was in terms of real quick in terms of sloppy, Chad? What was the thing that stood out?
Yeah, look, we could talk about it more, and Casey can add to it. We weren't able to run the ball much, in that first half the way you would like to. And then there were a couple of throws by his standard that were off, behind, and a couple of miscues on that. So if you're trying to Jimmy Johnson, Bill Parcells this thing, you kind of go off on those because the schedule is going to get harder. I think we're at a point now where we do need some stiffer competition. I think we've seen at this point what Florida is all about. This is an extreme down year for them. And in the last 2 weeks, these were not Power 4 competition. South Florida feels good, though, based on how they hung with Alabama. They feel good that they're going to do something to us to the point of they may sell it out over there, if that's even possible up that way.
Yeah, I don't know what that place holds, but the way I look at it, and obviously I'm biased, it's another primetime opportunity for the Canes.
Yeah, no other way to look at it.
Well, I mean, the USF's looking at it as it is for themselves. I think they're going to try and make it, they're going to try and tilt some conversation in their favor. But at the end of the day, for Miami, if they can do what they did when they went up to Florida, then once again, they will have shown the nation sort of what is happening under Mario Cristobal and why we all feel so good. Casey, before I get to you, I will say this. Chad is right on one thing. I don't know, Cam was 350-ish, right, and 5. He probably left. Now, I don't know I didn't note how the drives ended, but he probably left another 2 touchdowns and probably over 100 yards on a couple of misses and maybe a receiver he did not see. So, and I guarantee you he will be upset about that. But that being said, it's funny when Chad brought up sloppy. I'm like, sloppy? Yeah, it probably wasn't the quickest start. And 31-0 at the half, and 42-0 before the end of the third quarter, and 62-0 butt whooping, and a record-setting performance statistically. So we'll take that. KC, look, you blocked for court. I mean, I don't know how many. Were you Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville?
Yep. Yeah, I was with Trevor for the season.
Probably the best one, right? Most talented quarterback you played with, or no?
Yeah, I would say just based off of arm talent alone, absolutely, he's probably the most talented I've played with. Knowledgeable was Nick Foles, but as far as just straight arm talent and being able to sling the rock, I mean, he's really, really good.
So if Cam Ward was your quarterback, you would feel how?
I would feel blessed. I mean, not only from the fact that he can make those hard throws, but I mean, he's like Derek Jeter throwing sidearm throws from third to first. I mean, it's unbelievable. but he's also able to get out of the pocket, make plays happen. That's, as an offensive lineman, makes you happy. And you're right. You talked on how there's yards and touchdowns that were left out there. I mean, Isaiah Horton, who honestly, and I'm, in my opinion, is having a really good season. He doesn't have the stats to show for it, unfortunately, because every single time he scores a touchdown, there's a penalty. So, I mean, we left out, I think that was a 55 yard,
yeah.
60-yard touchdown that got called back because of my hands in the face. And we talked about Bell last week. Great big body, can move, just got in an awkward position and his hand just slipped underneath the face mask. I mean, unfortunate penalty, but next time let's get in a little bit better starting position. And as throughout the rest of the game, he never had another issue. So I think for sure having a little bit better start and not as much sloppiness. As far as the run game goes, I wasn't too thrilled about it because you would expect versus a Ball State we would be rushing the ball a little bit better, but the conditions coming out after a 2.5-hour rain delay, I mean, there's a lot of negative factors that played into that then they overachieved after halftime.
I thought Mario, I speak to Mario at halftime. He said that they were kind of loading up the box and taking away the run, which opened up the passing game. Chad might give me a little stink eye on that. I went back and watched it. So it depends how we define load the box. But from my vantage point, yes, 4 down, but I thought the linebackers were kind of creeping and they would drop a safety. So to me, it looked like they were selling out to try and stop the run, which opened up the pass. And in the second half, I thought Shannon Dawson did some good things formationally to open the field formationally, to open up the box and maybe also just wear them down. But I'll allow you both to either rebut or agree. And Casey, you can start.
I mean, I would say through the first half of that game, you definitely saw a lot of 7-8 man box. And even though they weren't necessarily in the box, but like you said, safeties were rolling down late, filling that void, and linebackers were creeping up pretty quickly. The defensive ends were actually doing a pretty good job against our tight ends of bookending us, not letting us get outside.
That might be in the Jimmy Johnson post-game film review, which I think early the tight ends did let some guys go.
Yeah, they did. And that's stuff to all get fixed at 100%. Practice this week. And I know that footing was a big issue. Guys probably weren't as trustworthy in their footing because the field was slippery and whatever. But, I mean, there are some plays out there, though, where guys were down the field. I mean, Mark Fletcher bullied one of the safeties, bullied him really badly. And I was like, yes, I love to see that as a lead blocker. He was a lead blocker for Martinez on a power play. Again, we talked last week about how both of them are really good and how mature it is for Mark to want Martinez to come. And he's also blocking for him at the same time, which I thought was impressive.
Chadrick.
Yeah, I would agree with Casey. I saw some footing issues, but I also saw, quite a few 4-man fronts. Maybe the linebackers were sticking their nose up there a little bit. A safety rotating down late is common practice in college football these days. So not anything that should really upend our running game. So, if I'm looking for something to kick a garbage can about or bring someone into practice early or raise my voice this week, it would be that. Though second half they came out and they were a bulldozer. So, I mean, that's just me just trying to find something. At the end of the day, 750 to 115. I'm just being a dick, for lack of a better word.
This is what they say to you.
Right, 507 passing, 243 rushing, at what's Coach tripping about. But the truth of the matter is, we watched the game. We weren't getting a push up front, and it is Ball State, so you kind of want to get out there and push guys off the line of scrimmage and kind of have your way there. It allowed us to throw the ball around a little bit more, and then we did our thing running the ball. I mean, when you end up with 243, it was good. But, we got guys off the bench. And it was definitely good to see that. Good to see A.J. Allen. Good to see a lot of guys out there. And we got some running backs that are a threat out of the backfield, which is good too, because we know we had a power running game coming into this year. But if we can get guys out the backfield, those are always tough matchups for linebackers.
I don't know this to be true. And so clearly if I did, I would never reveal it here. But I feel like on that motion on Chris Johnson, there's a setup coming. I feel like there's a setup coming because this – first two games the ball's going to him, and I think Shannon Dawson. If I was just guessing, he's got something up his sleeve coming down the road. When
you want defenses to feel that way, obviously.
Absolutely.
You want them to overcommit to that. And like I said, since we have a power running game between our two main guys, and then Lyle getting added in there too, they're going to want to have a certain kind of linebacker on the field. And then, you roll Johnson out there, and now you can't really do that. Or he's a bad matchup if you leave that linebacker on the field. You get a guy wide open, and then he's going to be good after the catch. I like to see us presenting those kind of problems to the defense, because having coached on that side, it's a real headache trying to match up.
I'll ask you this, Chad, as a defensive mind. I'm kind of enamored with how Coach Dawson calls a game and his play concepts and how he conflicts the defense, not necessarily RPO, but just some of his route concepts, some of his motions, getting guys in spots where he either makes it easier for the offense or Cam to decode, or off the route tree, making, for my native, making DBs kind of pick and choose or put them in conflict, and then trusting your quarterback to make the right read. Do you see some of that from? I know DBs are the hardest part to see on television copy, but Can you see some of that in there, or do you see, or what do you see? Let's put you that.
Well, I can draw conclusions from some of the stuff you see before guys run out of the screen. I think what's making it all work is that Cam is back there seeing the whole field. I mean, he's really a distributor. He's really a point guard. He's calm back there. He'll roll through the progressions, whereas you'll have a lot of quarterbacks that'll just stare something down and hope and pray that it comes open, and not be able to make the quick decision to come off of that and get to the other side of the field or move to the next route in the progression and then let the ball go. I think that's one of the best things that he's doing. We see the arm talent, but one of the best things he does is that he is seeing that whole field. So it does allow Shannon Dawson to do those things and allow his full genius as a coordinator to be unleashed. Sometimes you have a really good offensive coordinator, but the guy running it is not allowing that genius to come out, because they'll stare down a concept when it calls for you to be elsewhere. So that's one of the best things. He's going to get spoiled.
Did someone send you someone must have sent you a DM or something. That's fairly spot on, Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, no, I've been watching football for a little while. I've got the knee pains to go with it.
Now I will also add this, and I'll just lay it right up for our offensive lineman. He's also, for the most part, especially in that game, he had a clean pocket.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And again, we've talked about how good the offensive line has been, the wall of mirror ball. And I want to give a credit to the depth. I mean, our depth has been tested kind of a little bit these past 2 weeks. I know we're playing lesser opponents, but guys who have not seen the field a lot through their careers, Bell coming from a JUCO, McCoy, who's been a backup most of his career, extra tight end since he's been there. And then you get Lou Cristobal's son gets some playing time after Inez goes down. And that was pretty cool to see him go in there and perform. And not, I know he's not quite as big as his dad and his uncle are, but I mean, he gets in the trenches and he gets the job done. And that's what's important. And he had a clean pocket the whole game. Just from a pure offensive standpoint, I also want to touch on, I feel like Cam has a lot of control on the field. There's oftentimes where he's looking at his wide receivers, giving them little hand signals, whether that's coming in from the sideline before the mic turns off, or whether that's Cam just being
I don't think that – so speaking to Coach Dawson before the season, to interrupt, I'll let you continue, is that he spoke to a couple NFL guys, including Dorsey, and the advice he was given is call the play and be quiet. Like, don't just call the play and if you trust your quarterback, let him then do
it. Yeah, you'll screw him up with the late stuff. Yeah.
He was like, I'm not reading novels. I'm not giving a dissertation. Here's the play call, and I'll be quiet. So that's Cam.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I see it happen. And if he's that good at adjusting a play or getting a different route concept against these teams, it's so exciting to see what he can do the entire rest of the season to get us in the right position to – maybe it is 3rd and 3 on a tight game situation, and he gets the right route concept called outside of the normal play call to get that first down. I mean, it's exciting stuff to see.
We should also give some love to your boy. Your boys got out there on some of those screens and tunnels.
Oh yeah, I would say their ability to move too. I mean, we talked about it last week a little bit with Bell just being big and being able to move. I think Francis, he can move. I mean, obviously last year during the screenplay, he had that down the field big hit, and he's getting out there. Guys are getting out of his way. I mean, you see a big 325-pound mountain of a man running at you.
Well, let's ask Chad. Let's ask Chad what he would do.
Offensive linemen.
He can't do what he would like to do anymore because that's illegal.
Man, offensive linemen always get lathered up for the screens because they get to come visit us out there and just, smother us and all that. On a side note, I was a guy that got really pissed off when the NFL stopped allowing us to go low on linemen. Like, oh, you really want us to take on the 300-pounders up top? Great. I hope the insurance thing has gotten better. But, yeah, they love to run out there and find us and just see what we're going to do. And they're doing a really, really good job. Just the whole team in general are hustling. This is the third straight game against an opponent you're having your way with, and I still saw on defense guys running to the ball, including the big guys. And, like Casey said and Josh pointed out, is the linemen running out, going and finding that next level because those are the guys that, swing around and make a tackle and stop a play from going 50, 60 yards. So,
Chad, how would you approach trying to? I know we have multiple weapons and now the tight end and the back, but the first touchdown to Restrepo, they're playing man coverage. I'm just like, that's impossible. Like you're not like, what would you do against him?
Listen, you just kind of you gotta find what's making the team go, and that's really Cam Ward. So I would have to, in what limited film that I've seen, find something on there that bothers him and really hone in on that. Maybe I bring blitzes from strange places because it's not like the traditional blitzes are getting home. As Casey pointed out, as early as the Florida game, they do very well with the stunts. Not only are these guys got the size and, physical ability, they've got the intelligence up there. And let's face it, I think we all knew that if nothing else, during the Mario Cristobal tenure, we'd be good offensively on the offensive line. We'd be good there, whether it was coaching or getting those right guys there. So I try to do something like that. You are going to have to, at some point, run some kind of man coverage. But I wouldn't go willy-nilly with it. I think that was part of their plan to try and stop the run early on, but they had to abandon it at some point because it's how do you want to die when you're facing our offense?
Exactly.
On the flip side, the defense, 115 total yards, 6 rush yards, 4 sacks, 9 TFL, 6 quarterback hits, just an overwhelming performance from the defense, Chad.
It starts up front. Tyler Barron's still going nuts. Very difficult to deal with. So it's fun to see him continuing to dominate. And now they're going to have to really start devoting some attention to him more and more. We're going to have to see chips. We're going to have to see all that kind of stuff coming his way. And then it's like, who's going to step up after that? Maybe you guys know this or you've heard it mentioned. I don't know when Bain's coming back, but it was good to see Malik Bryant out there, being athletic and big and coming off that corner and using some technique to get around some guys. I mean, if he's developing in Bain's absence, how great will that be? That's just another weapon that's being developed. So, it's really starting there. And then, you know what? We're getting good coverage in that back end too. Like I told you guys last week, I know a coverage sack when I see one. So those first reads are not always there. I'm seeing guys trying to run through progressions, and that's just not going to happen right now with the way the defensive line is getting after it. And then the linebackers are just super active. Rod mentioned it. Guys are running to the football, and you're going to have a good defense when you're doing that. If you do nothing else, and guys are running to the ball, you're gonna play good defense. You're gonna have a good season defensively on that side of the ball.
Well, one last thing. Do you know Darrow? You coach with Darrow Porter or no?
I did 1 year. I played against Darrow. He played at Boston College, so my senior year they came down here. They did not win, but then. I coached with him in my last year coaching.
At Heritage.
Yeah, at Heritage, had him there, and then his son was on the team too. He was a freshman at the time.
His son is really good.
He is. He should be. So,
Exactly right. Just
son
like
of a
Quincy,
coach.
just like Quincy and Marco should be, right?
There's a
Or
pedigree
are.
there. Like you can't be out there sucking, right? So
Yeah.
he's doing well.
You got a game plan for Tyler Barron, KC McDermott, or Mesidor, or Barrow, or Ruben Bain when he goes back, or CJ Clark, or like, what are we doing?
Sign better linemen. That's the game plan. Those guys are unbelievable. We talked about it last week. Their get off is a big part of the reason why they're successful. Obviously, Jason Taylor being their coach, having a Hall of Famer be your coach is also going to be very helpful to you. I don't really have any answers outside of just do everything you possibly can technique wise to stay in front of them, because
let me ask you this:
three different ways to get around you.
You don't. I mean, so we talk about film for the people that are listening, right? Typically, you guys will see, TV copy is really not even watched for the most part in the football world, right? You get a sideline view, you get an end zone view, and you get a tight view. But from what you've seen, KC, like, who's the problem? Like, who's the one that because you were outside at UM, correct? Inside and outside, and you moved to center, I think, in the NFL, right? Or
yeah,
you talk, so like, who's the one that you're like, that he would be a problem? He'd be a real problem.
I'd have to go with
Tyler Barron.
Tyler Barron right now. Sorry, brain fart there. No, I'd have to go with Tyler Barron. I mean, he's so hard to block.
You were blacking out. I think you were just blacking out from the thought of it.
Yeah, no, he's so hard to block. He's, like I just said last week, three-way rusher. He can go inside, outside, or right down the middle of you. He's got the strength, the length, and the speed. There's so many positive attributes about him. It's going to be hard. And like I said, I can't wait for Bain to get back. I heard he may be back for this week, but if not, definitely VT, which would be awesome. But to definitely have him back on the field, create even more problems. I mean, I also want to give a shout out to Simeon Barrow. He had a great game as well. I thought he showed sparks of getting off the ball and making plays happen. And then going back to what Chad talked about with the linebackers, I was always told that you could tell what a great defense is by how hard their linebackers play. And Francis and Wesley Bissainte are monsters. And by the way, not a roughing the passer call. I'm an offensive lineman, and I know a roughing the passer when I see it. That was not a roughing the passer call. That was a clean hit, perfectly timed.
Officials across college football had a rough Saturday.
That was a very rough Saturday for that call.
Yeah.
What has most impressed you, Chad, as a defensive guy, from the evolution of Wesley Bissainte?
Well, obviously you're seeing the experience now, right? Doesn't get fooled as much, but just the hustle, right? Because you need your linebackers to lead you there. I always told my DBs, you guys are the athletes, you got to run around. That's to be expected. We're slim back there. We run track. Everyone's expecting us to run. It's when you get those linebackers doing it, it trickles its way down to the defensive line and everybody. If your linebackers aren't running to the ball, chances are the rest of your unit isn't really doing it. And if anyone's listened to Ray Lewis talk about those guys got to beat me to the football, he was really big on that, on that kind of stuff. And he's a linebacker. They're typically your leaders there, So if they're running to the ball, everyone's going to run to the ball, and that's his activity. He's been super active. He's always there on the spot, no matter where the ball goes. So that's been the most impressive thing. That's what jumps out to you on film.
Can a linebacker? I know they can, Casey. So I guess maybe elaborate on how, right? If they're some of their ability to play fast is just their comfort being in the defense, their experience, the more reps they've taken. But how much can they pick up from film, tips, alignment, formations that also allow them to be a step ahead?
Game film is the biggest part of what you do throughout the week to pick up on those tendencies. So there's certain offensive linemen that you can tell by their stance whether it's going to be a pass or a run. And that's knowledgeable to have pre-snap, because you can predetermine pretty much what you're going to do. Hey, this right guard, whenever he's getting in a pass stance, he's leaning back on his hips a little bit. Or, hey, the right tackle, he only puts his hand in the dirt when it's a run play. Those are the types of things that you can pick on. Formation-wise, you can pretty much watch film and break it down by formation and watch every play they have out of that formation during the week, and then pick up on little nuances like, hey, the Y's in the slot and the slot's at the Y, or maybe they flip the Z and the X. There's different things that you can pick up on formationally as well. And I want to talk about Wesley a little bit more as far as like noticeable differences. His body, his size, body wise, he's gotten much fuller, much thicker, but he's also maintained that speed, which is super impressive to me. And being able to run all over the place with that size is going to be terrifying for some offenses as we get deeper into the season.
So right before the season, they have a media day. Bring all the players out, offense, defense, coaches, media comes, gets to talk to them. And I actually asked Wesley, I go, you look bigger. He's like, yeah, I'm up to 225. And I was like, well, what'd you come in at? And I think he said 192.
I believe it.
I believe that too.
Well, I believe it too. But I think, again, we talk a lot about, plug and play, just transitioning high school to college, why kids, the curve might be slower, shorter, quicker, whatever. Well, Wesley Bissainte was a highly rated recruit, a big piece of the initial transition class. And I think the expectation a lot from some is just he's going to make an impact. But I would say it's pretty hard to make an impact when you play his position at 192 pounds.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no,
you're going to get pushed around easily.
Yeah, it's super rare. Only time I've seen someone that small do anything, and it wasn't as a freshman, it was Rohan Marley. He was out there like, if you lined up and you saw Rohan out there, you're like, whoa, what's going on? What are they doing? 5'8", 205 pounds. But he ran around with his hair on fire. And that's kind of how Wesley's moving around right now. It's like the embodiment of what a University of Miami linebacker is supposed to act like. You know what I mean? If you ordered a University of Miami linebacker and he came in the mail, this is how you'd want him to behave. If he didn't do that, then you'd be trying to like fill out your Amazon to take it back to Kohl's and have it sent back to Amazon. So he's doing what you're supposed to do.
When we see Wesley at Whole Foods and they just put the
you're packing him back in the box.
The QR code on his chest, he's going home.
Yeah, we scanned him and he's back to the to the facility.
I'm gonna go get some organic chicken nuggets for the kids, and I'll be right back.
There you go.
Right.
How about that? One thing that stood out to me, Chad. What have you seen? You talked about running to the football, but then the finish, right? I think Miami's tackling has been pretty good.
It has. And then when it hasn't been, you got numbers to the ball. So the first guy missed, the second guy gets it, the second and third guy, and we gang tackle. But I think it's just overall, I just think we've seen across the board, just fundamentally, we're better as a football team at all levels and all things. Fundamentally, we're doing things the right way. And this is something I've been preaching and crying for years. It's like, okay, we're seeing a lot of the top talent in South Florida head out and go to Ohio State and Georgia and Alabama and all these places.
Or Florida.
I think it's Florida back when Florida was winning football games, something they don't want to do now. But when we have these other guys that are just a tier below, at least according to rankings, we've got to be able to get those guys in here and develop them. We've got to turn an 18-year-old into a 21-year-old and don't say, all right, we got a 5-star 18-year-old here and we don't have to do much. He's a guy, and he leaves here at 21 years old the way he was at 18. And that's been a big part of this that maybe we don't think so much about, because I know as fans, you get all wrapped up in the recruiting and the stars and the, where you're ranked. But we're getting those guys and we're actually developing them fundamentally because, man, there's running, there's blocking, there's tackling in this game. And you've got to be able to do that. And what a kid did in high school is good, but we're playing college football now, and we've got to get them to be college football players. I don't care what they're ranked. And it just looks like across the board, we're doing that. And, tackling is one of those things that we're seeing.
Well, I would say Wesley Bissainte, you'd hold him up as one of those guys in terms of development. O.J. Frederick as a freshman, the fact that he's playing. Jaden Harris, plug him in, and he's playing. Look, when they recruited Inez Cooper and Matt McCoy, no one really knew who they were. But Mario, I remember being down there 3 years ago, and Mario said, those are two NFL guys. Now, Inez had to lose weight. Inez had to get in better shape. But Inez has now turned into a guy that is like the rock of that team. And they're super high on Matt McCoy, even though he's just getting his first snaps. I think the other thing that's interesting, too, is some of the portal. Like, think about it. Cam Ward, one offer out of high school, right? Damian Martinez had 3, went out to Oregon State. Mish Powell had no offers other than the Ivy League. So some of the guys, when they got to the level they got at, they had performed, but it's not like they just brought in 5 stars who were not playing at their former school.
Yeah, and people have all types of ideas and feelings about the transfer portal. I think one of the greatest things it has done for college football players, we could say, is that sometimes, man, you continue developing into college. So if you weren't that guy by your senior year in high school, it's not your death sentence, so to speak, that, okay, I've got to go to this lower level school and I'm kind of really stuck there. We're seeing guys who can go lower level or whatever, or go somewhere else, continue to develop into college, and then now level up and they end up at a Miami. I've told people all this, I've told people this. Yatil Green came in to the University of Miami. I swear he was about 6'1" when he came in, and the kid ended up being 6'3", and the athleticism just kept going with it. You can ask me how I know that, but this guy would just continue.
Chad, how do you know that?
Me being here and like his hips being up here and his hands being way up there and him jumping over the top of me.
Got it.
Yeah. So the guys are developing, and kudos to the staff for finding these guys and then getting them on campus. So that, I think that's been a great thing for the transfer portal, and we're certainly one of the schools really benefiting from that. But we're not making it our entire strategy in terms of personnel.
So last thing, Casey, I'll let you chime in here. So Matt McCoy, it's funny. The other day I was talking to Ed Pat, and he's like, he's still growing. He's grown. He's like, they claim he's 6'6", 6'7" now. I haven't taken out the measuring tape, but to your point, like, that's a kid that is still growing. And to the evaluation side, I remember in fall camp, because OJ Frederick was having a good camp, and his name was buzzing. And I remember one day after practice, Mario just said, look, he's going to attack it from all levels, but he's like, we must scout and evaluate and bring guys on campus and make those decisions for ourselves.
No, absolutely. And it goes into the development, like Chad talked about, like guys develop throughout their college career, but there's a lot of late bloomers in high school too. And that's why they continue the evaluation process through the senior year, not just through someone's junior year. They don't go, hey, let's get the top 5-star recruits, 4-star recruits that are sophomores and juniors, let's lock them down. They continue to watch film of guys who are in their senior season who may have made a giant leap from their junior to their senior year.
Or the other way.
Or the other way.
That happens. There's regression.
That happens. That absolutely
you might swap one out.
Right, exactly. But that's a key part of recruiting, is picking up those late additions that people maybe not have on their radar, that you've had on your radar, and you're like, man, look at this offensive lineman from Jacksonville. He did not play very well the past 3 years, but look at the jump he's made. He's also grown a little bit, put a little bit more body size on in a good way. Maybe he wasn't a Nez Cooper who was a little bit oversized in high school and kind of slimmed down his senior year, and now it shows his athleticism is better as he's playing through that year. Maybe he's done a few extra camps. Maybe he came to your camp in the summertime leading up to that, and he impressed you there. So building a roster in today's day and age in college football, yes, you can do it through the transfer portal, but the success is building that competition and breeding it within the program from high schoolers, and then adding those key pieces in that you may have missed out on in a recruiting cycle and the other skills parts.
I'm going to give Chad a 94-mile-per-hour fastball, like right over the middle of the plate. I think
Let's see if I can Aaron judge this thing. What do you got for me?
Yeah. So as someone who's been around high school football a very long time,
yes.
How often have you seen, in your opinion, someone who's rated here that you think is here, and vice versa?
I've seen it quite a bit. Especially down here, you get a lot of freshman phenoms, guys that go out there and put up numbers, and people get excited, and they tend to get a lot of love that lasts for a while. But any number of things can happen once that occurs. A guy falls off, he thinks he's got it made, and for the next 3 years, he doesn't really develop. He's made it. I've also seen guys that don't look like much of anything, And then they just really bust out at the end. I coached a guy in university school by the name of Sky Moore. Junior year, okay, whatever. Came back his senior year, and he's an absolute beast. And I tell my two boys at this time, that's the best high school football player I coached. You know what I mean? And so, so much so that University of Miami wasn't really recruiting him like that. He'd gone down on campus. He'd done everything you needed to do. Weren't really recruiting him like that. Takes off his senior year. And then on signing day, I'm not going to mention which coach it is.
I've heard the story.
Signing day, I get a phone call. I'm on my way driving to the ceremony, and this kid's going to South Carolina. I get a phone call. They're trying to do an end run. And I was like, I don't know about that. I mean, the guy's kind of just sworn you off. I think he's pretty solid to where he's going. But so I've definitely seen it. And then, man, I run gridironstuds.com. I got a Gridiron Studs app. I have thousands of recruits on there. I've seen kids on there like, this kid ain't playing college football. You know what I mean? And then I go back in there and check that senior year 6-game highlight video. I'm like, man, what the hell? Who's that kid? So 16 to 17, stuff happens to your body, man, especially if you get in the weight room, which, by the way, I think we got to give a serious shout out to our strength and conditioning, the University of Miami. I continue to say that's probably the biggest hire you make as a head coach when you come on board, because if you don't have that, you don't really have anything. The schemes don't work. Nothing really works if guys can't, if they don't have the strength, if they don't have the speed, you're just pissing into the wind, as they say. So I got to give shout out to them and what they've been able to do with the guys that are out there on this field right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'll throw in, just because of the way the world's gone, they have a guy named Dr. I don't know if he's a doctor. He'll probably hit me for this, but the director of sports science, Eric Renahan. So now it's the other component, which Coach Golden tinkered with that early on. I don't know if Coach Rick or Coach Diaz did, but it's taken itself to a whole new level in terms of, especially now that you're up to potentially a 16, 17 game season, right? Some version of load management, like not like the NBA, but like ensuring that guys are in peak performance to play week in, week out, day in, day out. The things they can monitor now, the things they can see, the things they can forecast, the reports they pull. So now you've got like a three-headed monster of strength and conditioning, sports medicine, sports science, in your head coach. So all those guys have done a great job.
You know what load management is? Ball State. That's the load management. Empty out the bench, get guys on the sidelines, with much time left in the game.
Well, I don't think Damian Martinez got a lot of run, but you know what? You need Damian Martinez about week 7 through 12, and then whatever happens thereafter. So it's no big deal. You didn't Ball State it up.
Right.
Yeah, your 60-minute games are coming.
Yeah. So in light of that, Chad, I'm going to end it this way. We've gone an hour-ish, I think, the first 2 times. We're a minute or 2 under 40. Load management. We're out. Yeah, we're done.
There you go.
Later. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not going to waste my time. We've said what we've had to say. The season's, you could say, it kind of starts on, bypassing Florida. It gets a little more real this week against South Florida, Virginia Tech on a short week after, flying out to Cal, and then the back end of the bye with Louisville and Florida State.
That's it, Josh Darrow. Go ahead and get that bulletin board stuff up there for the South Florida.
Get it up.
You're welcome. So, no, that's not bulletin board. I put them in that echelon of preparation.
Did you? I thought you just kind of.
Oh, no. Did I? Oh, well, all right, fine. We'll put it out there. But let's rest the tonsils. Let's get the voices, the voice box, some downtime, and let's reconvene next week.
Good, man. I'm going to go hit the cryo for next week.
Yeah, let's go ahead. You get your pressure points worked out.
Man, we got to get Rod back, because literally, I mean, he kind of, look what he's making it. It's like a guy who tapped out. He tapped out and put it all.
Rod's on IR, man.
Yeah, Rod's on IR. Yeah, I think Rod, and you know what it was? He always taps out with some technological, I don't know. That really was a load management scheme not to participate.
Yeah, that's pulled hamstring guy, because we can't MRI that. Yeah.
Right. When the trainer says you think you can go, and they give you squint eye, and I don't think I can. It's Ball State. Rod just looked at the trainer and said, I'm out.
I used to love when our guys would get in trouble and they get suspended for the Temple game,
Yeah, you know,
Like Bobby
go out on
Bowden.
Thursday night, have a little too much fun, and
Right. Bobby
let's
Bowden,
get a
hey.
free bye week.
Nobody
They're
wants
outside.
to run.
They're outside the bus laughing at us on our way to go play Temple.
Hey, Chad, enjoy yourself. I'm going to go have fun tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, boys. We'll see you next week.
All right, guys.